Well, we're ready to do the newspapers. Gifty is here. Gifty, good morning to you.
Good
How
morning,
are you?
Roland. I'm blessed. How are you doing?
I'm good too.
Did you sleep okay?
I was okay. Can't always get enough of sleep.
No. Well, good morning to
somebody
everyone.
said there's more sleep after death. I say, yeah, that's why we're in life, to extend it.
Someone also says sleep is for the weak, by the way.
Exactly, which I agree.
Okay. Yeah. It's necessary to sleep. Hi, everybody. Good morning, and I hope that you had a good sleep yourself. We're here to brighten up your morning, and hopefully everything will go well today. Okay, we're being joined also by Ben F. Sin, the editor of Daily Dispatch newspaper, also a poster. Uncle Ben, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gifty, and good morning, Roland. Roland, your shirt is nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll get my designer to get one made for you. Alice Couture, she's based in Tema, so very easy.
Okay, thank you in advance.
I'll make sure that happens. You know, life is life gets forgetful sometimes. Okay, let me start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Okay, yeah. The Daily Graphic newspaper has a picture of former President John Rawlings, but the banner headline says, Government, Amandi signed 500 million euro rail contract. Deal covers 102 kilometers of Western Railway line. And it comes with a picture of the railway minister and 3 others, all in masks, well, some of them in masks, signing the deal. And then the other story says, provide legal justification for excluding voters' ID in registration. That's from the Supreme Court's hearing of that case sent by the NDC. And then let's support, protect EC, according to former President Rawlings, who was delivering his address at the commemoration of June 4th yesterday. And Roland, I'll just take a quick look at the first sentence of the Amandi government and Amandi rail contract that was signed. It says the government has signed a 500 million euro contract with the construction company Amandi Holdings Limited for the construction of sections of the Western Railway line, and the contract is expected to cover 102 kilometers of continuous single track railway line, an initial workshop facility at a location to be specified by the government. It's an interesting story. See, I think, was it yesterday you spoke about rail travel or rail transportation, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes as well. In the center spread, apply for permits before commencing operations. Tourism Minister directs industry players, and that story is from the press conference held yesterday. And then conference center faces imminent collapse, engineer warns. Comes with a picture of a group of members of parliament who went there yesterday. It's the members of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament during a visit to the conference center yesterday. Then World Environment Day marked. They also have a fact sheet there as well. The back page of the newspaper has 7.4 million World Bank funded projects begin in Agona Swedru. The story is from Gilbert Mauli Agbe, and comes with a picture of Cynthia Morrison, Member of Parliament for Agona West and Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, cutting the sword. And the final story, Duraplus donates water tanks to Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. So that's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper.
Okay, so just do maybe one more and then we'll go to Uncle Ben. Great.
Let me add the Ghanaian Observer. The Ghanaian Observer has a picture of President Akufo-Addo. NPP National Council is Akufo-Addo. That's one of the conversations that we'll be having here as well. And respect EC's mandates from former President John Rawlings. And upon Nkrumah rubbishes NDC's petition over COVID-19 cash. If you know, the minority wants some investigation into how we have spent monies allocated to COVID-19, the fight against COVID-19. Casey Latifosin has been speaking about it. They want the Auditor General to look into it. The story says that the Minister for Information has rubbished that petition. Okay, the back page. Canute hopes Thomas Partey stays in La Liga. And Siama delivers latest update on Kwesi Appiah's salary arrears. This salary arrears, it's been a while. And Diego Costa fined for tax fraud. Those stories are on the Observer newspaper's back page. Let me take a quick final look at the center spread. Center spread, Kwekusechi Ado host Sunday nights, neck clears Kwejoba Jaman. Francis Owusu, a child gives to police, others in Joabeng, and Kwadaso MP tours project site with assembly members. Use 2018 voter album for primaries. That's according to NPP, an NPP man appealing to NEC and register to vote. Ashanti Regional Minister is telling all the people to do so. So that's for the Ghanaian Observer.
All right. Uncle Ben, you have the Daily Guide and then the Ghanaian Times. So just go through the front page headlines, and then we'll come to discuss your pick later when we're done with the other newspapers. Over to you, Mr. Benefson.
Thank you. I'll start with the Daily Guide. The main headline is the Supreme Court has ordered the Electoral Commission to justify why they are not using the old voters' ID as a basis for registering for the new one. We have Rawlings demands respect for the Electoral Commission, and MPP picks Nanado for 2020, and Nanado has already picked Bamia, so their ticket is the basis is why should you change the winning team? And the Speaker has ordered a probe into alleged fraud in the Selgami housing deal.
All right, so you can do the Ghanaian Times as well.
The Ghanaian Times has on its front page, well, almost everybody has it, that exclusion of voters' ID in upcoming registration exercise, Supreme Court demands a legal basis from the EC. And the hospitality industry has so far lost about $171 million due to COVID-19. And the chief imam has advised that Muslims should not organize Friday prayers in major mosques until he gives the order, until further notice.
All right. In the meantime, let me just quickly do a couple that I have. I'll do two. I'll do the Daily Dispatch, Uncle Ben's newspaper. And it has on the front page, NDC versus EC, new voters register case. The picture or the front page will be on your screen soon. Court adjourns to June 11. Promises fast track. And we know that we need this as fast as we can. And it has a attached picture of the Chief Justice himself, Justice Enini Yabua, Justice Jones Doche, Justice Sulik Badagbe, and Justice Bafuboni. Yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of memories. Siedun Katia teases Baumia. It will be difficult to be MPP's flag bearer after Kufuado. Siedun Katia seemed to be telling. I don't want to ask Mr. Benefson what he thinks about this. Are we too controversial for today? Maybe we'll leave it for next week. Beware of political conflict entrepreneurs towards 2020 elections. And on the back page, we have all the main story expatiated. It has on the back page of the Daily Dispatch, Justice Mafusao, as well as Justice Nia Shikoti and Justice Ofoya Megache, well-known legal practitioners before entering the bench. Let me look at the last paper. The Gold Street Business is on the front page. BOG's digital currency agenda underway. It's an attached picture in a story filed by Joshua Amlanu. Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afare is first deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. And, before all this was coming off, digital currency was on the high. We had the Bitcoins and all the other coins that came up. And then ultimately, we've had a lot of crisis since then. The rate just went down ultimately. That's Gold Street Business. But on the front page of the Business and Financial Times, we do have business confidence rebounds after lockdown ease reports. And then NIC must choose business continuity over increased investments. Yeah, that's key for the insurance industry as well. Gifty?
Okay, I can go on with the Finder newspaper. Finder newspaper has stories about the drop in blood donations because of COVID-19. It's a very important story that we need to focus a bit more on. It says 25.9% drop in blood donation. The story is on page 2 of the Finder newspaper. And this has happened in 5 months of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. There's also a picture of the Chief Imam. And the story is Chief Imam urges mosques not to hold Juma prayers tourism and hospitality sectors record $171 million losses to COVID-19 in 4 months. Ghana and Amandi Holdings signed $560 million railway contract. That story is on page 4. And look at usually the back page of back page of Find that there's always a whole big advert in the tourism and hospitality sector's record 171 million loss is in the center spread of the newspaper. Cocoa board boss and stood as Sumpahine. Okay, congratulations to him. And okay, that will be it for the Find the newspaper. Well, I have the Statesman. I can just add it. Mass testing not panacea to COVID-19, according to Education Ministry, to Ablakwa. 9 million to boost tourism and hospitality industry. That's a different angle to that press conference. NDC flaunt 870 radio stations nationwide. Story comes with a picture of former Chief of Staff Julius Deborah, and they say Julius Deborah leads what the Statesman is calling diabolic media agenda. And Fact page has sports. Azuma, JJ Rawlings encouraged me not to quit boxing for military. Azuma Nelson, no child is born a racist. Educate children on discrimination. Jerome Boateng is saying that. I'm sure that he knows what he's saying. He's living it. And yeah. All right, for the statement.
And Gifty and Uncle Ben, we do know that the story that has dominated the headlines along other ones, mainly over the last 12 hours, is that Supreme Court directive to the Electoral Commission. Look, we need you to come and furnish us with reasons, further and better particulars in my own phrase, why you would want to exclude the voter ID card, etc. from this. But Gifty, let me just first pick your mind on the subject and when the news rage on what you thought before we go to Uncle Ben.
Well, I don't know, but I've heard some things that I don't want to, I can't really say on
because you feel it's controversial.
Well,
state what you think is not. Then we're
I just think that personally, I don't see any sense in not including the old voters register.
You mean that it doesn't make sense not to include?
To me, it doesn't. But those who have pushed for it have said that there were fundamental flaws revealed in that court case back then in 2016, and those fundamental flaws makes it practically wrong to include the voters register in this particular exercise. I don't buy that. I don't believe in that. I think it's for me personally, I will side with Imani. I think it's an absolute waste of money for us to go through this entire process again. But we leave it to the Electoral Commission. This is their mandate. This is their job. If they feel that we have the finances to go with it, if they feel that despite the pandemic we can still work it out and we can still put a lot of people, it's okay. I would have opted for, like the civil society organizations push for, a limited voter registration so that those who have just turned 18, other people can come aboard. I think it makes sense, especially in this pandemic. I think it makes financial sense. But
makes public health sense as well.
Yeah, what do I know?
Yeah, yeah. What do we know? That's Uncle Afsini, if you look at this Supreme Court panel, it's even led by the Chief Justice himself and some of the top justices of the Apex Court. It really means that the court meant business on the subject.
Yes, Roland and Gifty, I think so. I think that there are two aspects to this court case and the general discussions. Whether one, the new register should go on, and two, whether the old voters register should be a basis for registration. I don't gamble, but if I'm to gamble, I won't be surprised if the Supreme Court says that, okay, because you can see that the EC has until Monday, the 8th of June to give the legal basis. And the case itself will continue on Thursday, June 11th. Remember, yesterday I was saying that I'll be very surprised if this case lasts more than 2 weeks. And I'll be surprised if it starts, they may decide to sit on a Saturday or sit on the weekend. I think that if the Supreme Court, for example, says that, well, you've started the process of registration, but perhaps we think that there hasn't been enough justification to allow the old voter ID cards as a basis, apart from, because some people may have attained 18, or some people may not have registered in previous registration exercises. So those people may then take advantage of a passport or a Ghana card. So maybe the Supreme Court will make the old voters register the third criteria for registering for the new elections, the new voters register.
Well, it's important that the Supreme Court also has empaneled all these judges, and I found it quite fascinating, and it also shows that they're quite serious about it. In the first place, in my perspective, I think that the Supreme Court feels that we need to make sure that an institution which is backed with an independent role and objective by the Constitution needs to be given that free hand and atmosphere to operate. Yeah. At the end of the day, there are also citizens who could ultimately be left in the dark. I don't want to say disenfranchised, I've said it though, because they don't have access. Access to the primary documents that ideally they would have needed to register quickly. And you even mentioned that we're in a period which is not normal. Now, the argument that people use NHIA cards, etc. to register, is that the main argument to say that then they can't qualify if we want to use the perspective of who is a Ghanaian, not to register or to be voters? Is the law, because it's a constitutional instrument which will guide the way elections have been organized and will be organized, the only reason for which we have an independent constitutional commission that needs to organize elections on behalf of the people to say, I'm going strictly by this and not use any moral reasoning to attach to it. So it begs the question as to whether we're empathetic, apart from just being legal, but also having that feeling for the ordinary Ghanaian who may not have access to the documents. And many people don't have access to passports and the national card. I don't have him, for example, but I at least I can say I'm privileged. I can easily get access to something else, or I have a passport. But what about those who are in the rural areas and all that? I don't know what Gifty thinks about.
Well, for me, there's too much politics at play. There's too much politics at play, quite sincerely. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to believe. But I'll just give it to the Electoral Commission that they know what they're doing, and that this is an independent body. There's also a case that Mahama Yarga, former Minister for Information, is also seeks to push that at least there could be the addition of birth certificate as part of the ways that somebody can register. I don't know how far that case has gone, but this is something that came up also in Parliament. I think there's a lot of, and we'll be kidding ourselves to think that there isn't politics at play. There's a lot of politics at play. Depending on where you're standing, you look at the issues differently. But at the end of the day, I will urge the stakeholders to look out for the interests of the Ghanaian, and I mean, maybe it's even a cliche. Maybe it doesn't even.
Okay, Uncle Benefson, what is your story pick for this morning?
I think that my story pick will be the Supreme Court decision. You know, the Fulani Association of Ghana, if you look at Wikipedia, it puts the number of Fulanis in Ghana at nearly 900,000. Now they are prepared to sue the national NIA. They are prepared to sue them, and possibly that will also affect the Electoral Commission, because what they are saying is that they've been denied. They said nearly 1 million of their people have been captured, but they've not been given cards, which has a domino effect. That if 1 million people have been captured and 2 of the source documents before you can do join a new register is passport and Ghana card. Now, many of them may have had the health insurance card, so consequently they had registered. So if the Supreme Court rules that the EC was justified in excluding the old voters register then I will not be surprised if the Fulani Association of Ghana decides to go to court to force the EC, put a hold on the registration, and go to court to determine whether the NIA should release the cars for the nearly 1 million Fulanis who think they are Ghanaians and who, by virtue of birth in Ghana, that case is settled. So we have a two-leg court cases there.
Yeah. Yeah, and Govt wanted to look at a story on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. And I'm
interested
That's a pick for the morning.
Yeah, it's beware of political conflict entrepreneurs towards 2020 election. I think it's a story that we have not highlighted, especially this year, being an election year, because first of all, of course, COVID-19 came in at a time that nobody expected it to come in. We've not, usually in an election year, Roland, you'll have all the civil society organizations, you have the Peace Council. There will be a massive drive towards ensuring that the elections are peaceful, not without, conflict. I mean, there will be the conflicts, but there has always been this education, consistent education that went on. I haven't seen a lot of that in this year, which is why I think we should start lifting, lifting the banner on this story, or stories like this, for people to get it into their mind. So it's interesting that the Dispatch writes about it today. Although, Uncle Ben, I think it's gained some prominence, I should say, on the front page. I think it's about time we start talking about that, especially in these times when we're looking at registration issues here and there. The civil society organizations have said, look, it's almost impossible to get a consensus when you're dealing with political parties in an election where the stakes are high, but it is possible to come to a compromise. And I think we should start highlighting these conflicts, election conflict-related stories.
Uncle Ben, what really did you get out of the story? Meaning that what? People will benefit monetarily from creating disagreements and, so to speak, quoted conflicts in an election year?
I think that the Chief Imam recently made a very telling statement that it is unfortunate that one is getting to this time. You have many people from the Zongo areas being used as agents of, and I agree with the Chief Imam, and I've said it before. If someone comes to you, you're a young man, you may be unemployed, and he says that, look, get 200 cedis. Let's go and frighten Roland and Gifty so that nothing will happen, just to show that we did. My appeal is that tell that person that he should bring the niece or nephew to join you, and you will go. Because once that person comes to you with that money, he's insulting you that you are expendable. Ask that person that if he gets a free ticket or a free offer for a holiday in the US or Britain, he's come to give the ticket to you. Please put on your thinking caps and tell them that yes, you want the money, fine, but you also want the son, daughter, nephew, or niece. I've lived in Canada for more than 50 years, so I know that there are very good people there. But these political entrepreneurs will come and use you as if they love you. They don't love you. They think you are garbage.
But there's something I think you and Gifty said that I thought struck me. It means that ultimately people would want to have a certain objective. Either they want to win or they want to pull somebody down, but they pull into the conflict innocent people. Why is it that, and first why is it that young people who usually are pulled into some of these situations don't tend to realize that where we are going, where they're taking us is a dangerous path?
It's not that they don't realize, I think they realize, but over the years we've also seen how beneficial, how beneficial politics has been to people. Look, Roland, you go to school with someone. The next thing you know, you're struggling as a journalist to make ends meet. The next thing you know, someone is a spokesperson for a particular ministry. You've seen the person driving a V8. At the end of the day, you want to align. There are so many young people who see this as an attraction, the pulling force for them to gravitate towards it. And then when there's poverty, people have seen the social cycle of poverty, you know, manifest in their lives, and they see this as an opportunity to make it one time. You go for it. And then there's also the thing about militarization of the youth. Young people, I mean, they're strong and everything. You arm them, you take them, you use them for what you want. And so it's great. Uncle Ben couldn't have put it any better by saying that if you want me to do this, let's bring on your children, bring on your grandchildren, bring on your nieces and your nephews, so that we know that what you want us to do is fair to us. All right.
And we have to call it a morning. Uncle Ben, you want to spend 30 seconds to tell us what role, let's say, civil society, institutions like maybe the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center, etc., could do?
Well, I think that there's the need to hammer on the dangers. I think that we should encourage these young guys that if anybody comes to record the person, and I know that Gifty, Roland, Joy, Israel, and the group will be very happy to play audios of politicians who come in the dark, in the night, and start whispering to you. Record them and let's play it on air. I think that this will check them to do it. And the one thing to COVID-19 is good. For one reason, is going to prevent or eliminate those who hire people to travel. They give them 20 cedis, a T-shirt. Let's go from Accra to Kumasi for a rally. That is out, and that is good.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will help.
Well, thank you, Uncle Ben, for joining us this morning. But Gifty, we have to do myjoyonline.com.
Certainly. Let's take a look at myjoyonline.com. If you're at home, you want to quickly log on and take a look, click along with me. myjoyonline.com. There it is. COVID-19 patient delivers baby via cesarean section at El Waklo Isolation and Treatment Center. That's an amazing, beautiful story.
Yeah, by award-winning journalist
Beryl Richter. Beryl put that story together. Beryl will be very interested. Well, I mean, I don't know. We may be able to see it. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe we can click it. And
yeah. Well, it will be good to see the video. I want to see that baby. Baby. Supreme Court orders EC to provide legal basis. That story we've told you. Credits Mahama for the new motorway interchange. That story is a very interesting one, I should tell you. NDC is telling the government ahead of the commissioning. How will that commissioning go? We're here to take a look at it. Across COVID-19 cases surpass 6,000 as the national tally increases to 8,885. We'll gradually get into 10,000. A woman with breast cancer faces eviction by landlord over stench. A very touching story, and I urge all of you to click on that story and see how you can support this woman with a few CDs. It's possible. We've been doing that here. Let's do sports next.